every crisis, it will emerge by destroying a set of its productive forces to balance the level of productive forces and the relations of production. And that is precisely what we see in modern capitalism. I don't know, to put it in a very mechanical way, but I'm sure most of us who have cell phones, and I'm sure all of you have, I'm sure all of you changed your model in the last 2 years, except the old die-hard Marxist. Ijaz is shaking his head. But many who change the model, they don't change it because the phone, after all, cell phone is a phone. No? The phone was not working. Of course it was working, the earlier phone. But you change it for a new model because you get various other features. You discard a working telephone, a productive force. You discard a working telephone in order for a new product because it gives you certain additional features. In other words, you actually destroy part of your thing by creating these new products and destroying an earlier part of your productive forces. Capitalism continuously keeps maintaining its balance. And this balance is also maintained through extra economic factors, through political coercion, through intervention, through seeking hegemony that imperialism is doing today. With all these features, every point of rupture will never lead to the automatic collapse of capitalism. That rupture has to be utilized by the conscious, under the leadership of the conscious proletariat, by the working people, to use that crisis to convert that crisis into a revolutionary situation. Now that is the key element of this praxis. And that is what Lenin said, capitalism has been in a continuous crisis. There has been a post-Second World War boom for about half a century. And then, as its inherent contradiction of the growth in the social nature of its production, which keeps constantly increasing the levels of productive forces, and the individual nature of appropriation of the surpluses generated. This contradiction has always been in existence and has come to a flashpoint at various times. But the capacity to utilize that flashpoint, that is the practice of this philosophy of praxis. That's why philosophy of practice is the politics of philosophy. It is also the philosophy of politics. So this, in a nutshell, would tell us what is the philosophy of praxis. But the moot question that concerned Marx, Engels, Lenin, later the builders of socialism like Stalin and Mao Zedong, Ho Chi Minh, everybody was how to utilize the objective situation which is there, which exists in terms of a crisis situation, for intervention through popular mass activity or the intensification of the class struggle, to put it simply. Through the intensification of the class struggle, how to utilize that situation to convert it into a revolutionary situation for a revolutionary transformation. That is what Lenin called the subjective factor. The 1951 Statement of Policy of the Communist Party of India, the then undivided India, with which the CPIM had always accepted that its broad conclusions, that said in 1951 that the objective situation in India for a socialist transformation exists. The subjective factor to achieve that social revolution is what has to be built and what has to be worked for. And it is precisely that subjective factor which is still today the area where a lot of work needs to be done in order to strengthen it. And as I said at the outset, we are discussing this issue in